The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the producers and the individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the staff of the Sun Prairie Media Center, its members or underwriters, the board members of the Media Center Commission, Charter Communications, TDS Telecom, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Hello and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jameson Rabbit, and the man seated next to me still doesn't get the ending of Wizard of Oz. His name is Mike Roth.
It goes back to black and white.
Yeah?
It's like they invented color, like right in time.
Yeah.
Well, not right in time because, they didn't have color at a certain time.
Well, at the beginning of the movie,
in the
they didn't have
beginning,
color.
and then they invented color, which the world has never seen before.
Right.
And then they lost it again.
Doesn't make any sense to me either.
Do you think it drove people crazy way back when you got to stoplights and all they saw was shades of gray?
Can't tell, that light gray or dark gray?
I don't know. We haven't invented color yet.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It is weird. It's kind of like that movie Pleasantville, too, where suddenly
color
appears.
I love that movie. Have we
Yeah.
ever thrown back to that?
I don't remember. I think we have, actually. Who knows? Go back and watch one of the previous 285 episodes
Yes,
to find out.
if anybody
Somebody
could do
report
that
back.
for me, that would be awesome.
That would be amazing. So for this episode, number 286, let's start off with our streaming spotlight of the week, and we turn to Netflix for the new movie In the Tall Grass, written and directed by Vincenzo Natali. It is based on a Stephen King story, and it's basically a film with 6 characters in it. But despite such a small cast, it gets a bit dizzying sometimes in how their stories are kind of deployed in this. And we have pregnant Becky and her brother Cal. They're traveling. They're going to go put her baby up for adoption. They stop near this large field, and they hear this young boy's voice calling for help from the field. And they're intrigued, and they feel like they have to go help this kid. Help. Somebody, I'm lost in here. And as soon as they enter this field of tall grass, they realize something's not right. They quickly get separated and find out that in this field, distance and time may not be constant. And they separately kind of stumble across this young boy that they'd heard, Tobin. And Tobin has some dire premonitions for these people surrounding this massive rock that's sitting in the middle of the field, and this magic rock has properties. They also, Becky stumbles across Ross, the father, and
who we've seen in many
Patrick,
horror movies.
Patrick Wilson, and Natalie, his wife, and as they all kind of attempt to navigate this field and determine who and what can be trusted, Travis shows up. Who's Travis? Well, Travis is the baby's father. He just randomly appears in this field because he's looking for her. And they soon begin to realize that there's some sort of time loop that they can't escape it within the tall grass.
They definitely play with a lot of string theory and overlapping.
And one thing happens which leads to this, which will always continue to happen.
And that's pretty much where a lot of the horror comes from, is the confusion, not only for them, but also for the audience.
Very much.
I really thought it was kind of dry and dull for the first half of the movie. I became interested in what the heck they're trying to do with it, but it never really panned out well for me.
I never fully felt like I understood The Rock. Like there were things that were presented, and then I wanted to know more.
I think The Rock, Stephen King comes with a great idea.
Sure.
And he just blames the Native American population.
It's a lot of that, right?
It's a
Mystical
lot of his
things.
movies.
You wouldn't understand.
It's an ancient thing, tribal people, blah, blah, blah. We don't understand. So I don't think he had a solid, really good idea when it came to why this is magical. And maybe he should stop trying to explain that kind of stuff, because it does feel a lot of repetition. He's always blaming a burial ground or
it's
Native
very
American
familiar territory
and
for him.
even when it's aliens, it's still Native American, tribal, which is feels a little dull. But it was kind of interesting. It just didn't pan out. A lot of in order to have him fully explain how all these people are going around, this movie would have to be a series. There's a lot of stuff
I don't need that series.
was just left for our imagination. Yeah, and I would have gotten bored with a series real quick.
Like, I thought it was kind of cool early on when Cal and Becky are in the field and they're separated and voices are coming from different directions. Yeah. And they say, okay, let's jump on 3 and we'll see where each other are. And they jump and they're not too far away. All right, cool. All right, jump again. And all of a sudden Cal's halfway across the field and it's like, wait a minute. And there's like that moment of like, well, that's messed up. What's going on?
Yeah.
Like, there's moments of that, but there's a lot of just doldrums getting through it. And I felt like this movie, like a lot of Stephen King stories, doesn't translate well to film.
No. And I'm sure if I read it, it was great.
Yeah.
But this was not that great to go through. I did think it was a beautiful film. I liked watching the grass. I liked how they used their tones and their shading and stuff like that. But yeah, it was difficult and slow.
Yeah. I found myself fighting not to look at my phone while I'm watching it. Like, now pay attention, man. Come on. And that's rough. So what did you give In the Tall Grass?
I give it I mean, of course, I'm not smiling, and it sounds like I should be giving it a worse review, but I gave it a very mediocre review of 2.5. I think you could sit through it.
Yeah,
I have faith in you.
And that's what I gave it, 2.5. Like, there's nothing actively bad, but I wasn't really intrigued to see more of this movie. Yeah. So it's just there.
I think it would be kind of a pretty thing to have in the background while you're vacuuming.
A better review you'll never find, folks, for In the Tall Grass. It's a great vacuuming movie.
Yes, it's a great vacuuming. You get to see the waves.
I will say, though,
grass
I've said multiple times, like, you know what? This is a good fold-and clothes movie. Like, some dumb action movie. Yeah, put that on and just fold socks all afternoon.
I don't know, because I could stay confused through this whole thing.
Yeah.
And then after I was done folding clothes, I'd think, well, maybe the reason why I'm confused is because I'm folding clothes. I'm going to have to watch this again.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Nope.
Moving on, let's take a look at what we have on the marquee this week, and we have a record-breaking, controversial film to talk about.
Yep, if you haven't heard about this, you don't have news or anything else, because there's cops galore at every single theater this weekend for the opening of Joker. Joker is, of course, DC's most notorious villain, usually seen with Batman, but in this case, we're talking about the making of a super villain, which is something that we really haven't done in the Marvel or DC universe yet. Joker is played by character Arthur Fleck. For the longest time in the comic books, we never knew what his name is. They're going with Arthur Fleck this time, and it's played by Joaquin Phoenix. I'm not going to screw that up, but I could. It's really not phonetically right. Arthur Fleck is a mentally disturbed, I think, supposedly young man. They didn't really.
Yeah.
I assume they were giving me they were saying he was much younger than he really was.
I mean, I would guess they're probably trying to tell you he's in his early 30s, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
So he goes into life, and he has a really hard life. He lives with his mother. He has mental disease that's not really being taken care of well. Social services are being cut back, and he's losing his meds. He's losing the help that he needs. It's hard for him to get a job. He has a disability where he starts to laugh every time he gets anxious, and that causes a lot of problems for him. It's not just his story, though. It's also the story of society. Society is also breaking down as social services are breaking down, as garbage is piling up in the streets because there's a worker strike.
You can feel the griminess of this Gotham.
There's a grimy and a desperateness of where if you have money, you're doing okay and there is no problems. But if you don't have money, middle class or beyond, life is getting worse and worse and worse. And this movie, I think, is more of a portrayal of society over bringing out a supervillain. The story itself is pretty simplistic, but Joaquin Phoenix is a fantastic actor. And he now tops my favorite Joker easily.
It's a tremendous performance.
It is a tremendous
and physical.
Very.
You know, I mean, he dropped a ton of weight, and Joaquin Phoenix naturally has this darkness in his eyes. Like he's great movie. You Were Never Really Here. He's dark in that one and brooding. And so you add to that the weird physicality of him, and he plays a guy who you're watching slowly kind of lose his mind, being driven to desperation. He plays that really well.
He does.
And I like that. And one of my favorite things about his portrayal of his character is, I mean, you're watching a madman kind of being formed in a way, and he's desperate, he's angry, but he has these moments of glee when he'll do these dances just in the middle of nowhere, and I love it because he's got such weird physicality to him. I'm like, I like that.
And they do that a lot with the Joker characters, and I like it because it feels true to the comic book.
Sure.
The comic book, the Joker almost feels like he has no bones. The way he can move around and just slip in and out, and Joaquin Phoenix does that movement very well, to the point where I feel like he might have took some dance classes or something in order to really be in tune with all the motions in his body. That laugh was the creepiest out of any Joker's laugh ever. The look of struggle on his face while he's wrestling with his problems, and then closer to the end where you realize that he's just not going to hold back anymore. And that makes your character. There's a couple of things that I thought was a little dumb about this. The way he gets the following of people, I think that was kind of random and extreme. I understand that the society was having a problem and they wanted a hero, but the actions that he took in order for an uprising to start felt weak, very weak.
So I love, one of the things I really love about this movie is Todd Phillips, the director. I mean, there's heavy homages to Scorsese's films. Taxi Driver, King of Comedy. Heavy homages to that. It feels like that New York City that was portrayed back then. I love those. I love Joaquin Phoenix. I really don't care for the whole Thomas Wayne storyline. I think that he's depicted in a way that isn't right. We see a young Bruce Wayne. You're not going to get a Batman. We see a young Bruce Wayne, but Thomas Wayne, there's a storyline with him, and he's basically a dirtbag in this movie.
And
he's a loathsome character, and that's not the Thomas Wayne that we need.
They've hinted at it sometimes in comic books. A lot of times he's a great dad and he wanted to follow in the footsteps of a great father. And then other comic books, it's like, you know what? He wasn't that great of a guy. You didn't know him because he died before you were.
The thing is, I don't like about it is that they used him being a dirtbag to prop Arthur up as being a sympathetic character in parts. And I don't think the Joker is a sympathetic character. And Todd Phillips came out and said, like, oh, he's not sympathetic. Like, well, you really portrayed him as one. You really played the light and dark of the two characters against each other. And I don't like that portrayal of the Joker. I don't like the Joker who isn't completely maniacal. And this Joker is. He has sympathy for people. That's a weird Joker to me.
In this case, I think, for me, I felt it was more of you feel sympathy for society over the person that is driving the story.
They really want you to feel him, though. I mean, there's a lot of it with the way they portrayed the social services, and he's desperate for things. The other thing I love Robert De Niro in this movie. I wanted to believe that he was playing the same character as he did in King of New York. And through the whole movie, I was racking my brain, like, what was this character's name in that movie? Is it the same guy? It's not the same character. But I love him as a late-night king. I don't think if Robert De Niro were a late-night talk show host that he would have a following like that, because he's just not good.
No.
Watching it going, I'm supposed to believe this guy's the Johnny Carson? He doesn't have that. But I enjoyed him in the movie.
Well, that was the other thing that they were showing a lot. Every comedian was absolutely terrible as you're watching this movie. And you just go, well, that's a sign of the times. It was just society is becoming more depraved, and so is their form of entertainment.
The best part of this movie, though, is hands down Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, he is capable of carrying a movie all on his own. He did it with Her a few years back. Just basically carried that movie. And this movie, he turns in a performance that's just phenomenal. And, my problems with maybe his backstory aside, he was just great, man. I could watch him on screen all day.
He's I know he won't win a nomination, but
he might get nominated for this.
He should. He really should.
I mean, there's that's kind of the big talk right now.
It was a major transformation. It would be hard sell because the controversy that's around this movie.
Nah.
Also, it's a comic book movie, and people don't
I mean,
like that.
somebody won for Joker already.
True, and
Yeah.
Suicide Squad has won.
Don't start with me. Now, here's this. Get this. My favorite part of this movie, and this is not a spoiler at all. My favorite part of this film that I enjoy the most isn't even part of the film. It's what Todd Phillips, the director, came out and said afterwards when people were asking about it.
Yeah.
And this is what he had to say about this. When people have issues maybe with this Joker, he says, maybe this Joker isn't the Joker that you know. Maybe this Joker is the one who inspired the Joker. Maybe this Joker took it to a certain level and then inspired someone else to take his platform, one of his many followers, one of those masks, to take it to the next level. Because in this world, Bruce Wayne is like 9 years old.
Yeah.
And so if we follow this timeline, the Joker is basically running amok for 15 years at minimum before Batman steps in. So maybe he is, he has sympathy, but the guy, his follower, says, I'm going to take it to the next level. And I know we'll never get that movie, but I kind of like that idea when the director says it. I'm like, I like that.
They did that with Gotham in a way, too. And I do like that idea, too. It's just like with all the superheroes. You just hand the mantle down.
Sure.
You could do the same thing with villains. And if this becomes like a normal thing where it goes back and forth, hero movie, villain movie, I think we're going to have more fleshed out storylines in the future. That's one of our big complaints with a lot of the hero movies is these villains are fantastic. They got a great backstory, but all we're concentrating is the good guy. How does a bad guy become a bad guy?
Right. What did you give Joker?
I give it a 4. I really like this movie a lot. There was a couple of things that I thought was a little far-fetched, but besides that, Joaquin Phoenix, he's fantastic.
He's great.
Really fantastic.
He's really good. Yeah, I give it a 3.5 out of 5. Really enjoyable. Go check it out. Don't be afraid. Go check out the movie. Judge for yourself. There's a lot of, like when I came out, everyone was asking me, what did you think of the movie? And it's like, well, I love some parts and I didn't like some parts.
Yeah.
But you should go see it.
Yeah.
And judge for yourself because there's a little bit of both. But the next film we have on the marquee this week is a film called Judy from director Rupert Gold. Stars Renee Zellweger as Judy Garland. This is a film about really one of the most tragic Hollywood stories that we have. Judy Garland's life is kind of a sad tale of a girl who began in show business at the age of 2 years old and really never got back what she was putting into it. And this film alternates back and forth from her youth in Hollywood, being controlled and manipulated by Louis B. Mayer, and her adult life. And both were kind of really sad times. She's struggling as an adult financially, has to kind of make the gut-wrenching decision to leave her children with her ex-husband so she can go on the road to try and kind of resurrect her career and make enough money to buy a home. And she's basically spent her life being a commodity, being treated as a commodity by everybody. And her kind of existence late in life is kind of the result of a lifetime of trying to live up to others' expectations. Kind of that's really the theme, is trying to live up to these people's expectations, being constantly medicated to achieve that, and living a life on everyone else's schedule. And as a child, we see that she's just belittled and groomed by Louis B. Mayer.
Very manipulated.
Right, very much so, and really creepy. And she was taught from a very young age to just try and please others because you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're just lucky to be here. And that's how she feels. And so she's, even as an adult, she kind of just wanted to please people, and it didn't really matter what it did to her.
Yeah.
And thus the pills and the drinking and all these things. And she just wanted to be accepted and loved, and thus 5 marriages and wrecked by alcohol and pills. And in the movie, we see her daughter, Liza Minnelli, briefly in the movie. And I was kind of curious how long Liza was going to be in this movie, because she's almost as big a star as her mom.
Oh, yeah.
But she really didn't have any time in her mom's life. I mean, there's several books about their lives and how she was very much the absent mother.
Yeah, I think she was like 15 when her mother died, and there was that separation for a year. And even before that, the movie portrays that their life was not as happy. I mean, they loved their mother, but at the same time, her mother was a mess.
Right.
Went through 5 marriages, drugs, alcohol, couldn't hold a job in the United States because of her situation.
And she's just really self-sabotaging to her life and her career.
Yeah, and it's, you feel a lot of sympathy for her throughout this entire movie. At the very end, I did start getting a little verklempt. It's no one should be treated like that, and she was a star. She really was a star.
She was one of the biggest stars. I mean, her and Mickey Rooney were stars.
Yeah.
I mean, huge stars. But this goes a little bit into how she was treated as opposed to Mickey Rooney.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't get to eat that burger. Take this pill instead because you're still too big.
Yeah.
And that mental anguish hung with her for her entire life, and just affected kind of every relationship that she had. And she, through this movie, she wants to be home with her kids, but she also doesn't want to be forgotten by her fans.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that of like, I just want to be accepted and loved and appreciated, and kind of looking in the wrong places for that. And it's such a sad story. Renee Zellweger, I thought, was really good in this.
She was fantastic.
And I haven't seen something that I've really enjoyed her in quite a while.
I don't think she nailed the voice very well, but Judy Garland's voice is extremely unique.
Right.
But the way she portrayed the actress, the way she, at the end when her first song wasn't that good, but later on did a fantastic job. She was able to kind of bring out the emotions that you needed out of that.
She felt like
character.
she'd lived a very hard life.
Yeah. One of my few problems with this movie, makeup really terrible.
Yeah?
Yeah. Judy Garland died at 47, very, very young. They purposely put weird.
Oh no, it was great.
Was it?
She lived a rough life of pills and booze.
Yeah.
I was shocked when I saw at the end how young she was when she died, because in my mind I've always assumed that she died in around 60, because I remember seeing her at the end of her life on talk shows and such, and she looked rough.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
She did not look like you or I in our 40s.
Yeah.
She looked like someone 15 years older than that at the end of her life.
Okay.
She had a lot. I mean, she'd been taking pills and smoking cigarettes since she was like 12.
Yeah. When I was looking at her, I was like, "You're doing a 60-year-old woman."
Yeah, no,
the
that's
entire
what she
time.
looked like. I thought it was actually
wow.
really good because she kind of captured that of feeling like a frail older lady as opposed to someone in their 40s.
I also felt bad for her when she'd fall in love.
It's just sad.
And it's just such a lonely life.
Yeah, I mean, it's really one of the tragedies. I mean, I've read one of the books about her.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember if it was her autobiography or the one Liza wrote about her, and it's just so sad because she never had any control of her life.
Yeah.
She let the men in her life tell her what to do. She let the studio heads tell her what to do, and she basically let handlers tell her where she had to be, what she had to do, and she really never had the life that she wanted, and she died young, alienated from her kids.
And luckily now, movie studios can't do what they used to do.
No, that studio system, they own you.
It was a slavery type situation.
It really was. Louis B. Mayer was a bit of a monster.
Yeah.
That's the good of this. The bad is I thought this was kind of a standard biopic, kind of a paint by numbers of her life, the ups, the downs, and then, I mean, I knew exactly how this movie was ending. There's no doubt in my mind how this movie's ending.
Well, it is a biopic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's like, I know we're ending on a certain song. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, true.
And so I wish that there would have been a little more gray in that area, because there is a lot about her life that I thought was really interesting. But Zellweger's good stuff.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that you chose mostly her adult life. Really, when you look at the flashbacks, they're just small scenes of younger Judy Garland.
What'd you give Judy?
I gave it a 4. I really, really like this movie a lot.
Mike's loving movies this week.
And same thing with Joker. It's pretty much the actor that made this thing shine more than it should. Renee Zellweger did a great job.
She did. I gave it 3.5 again. I'm about a half star behind you. 3.5 out of 5. Go check out Judy. It's a good time.
All right.
It's not a good time. But you go on and see it.
No, it's not a happy time.
All right, let's take a look back, sir, for another film in our Best in Show showcase.
All right.
Talking about some Best Picture winners.
Okay.
1980.
1980. We had some ordinary people.
Ordinary people. This is, I'll go ahead. This is Robert Redford's directorial debut. And he wins Best Picture. Stars Donald Sutherland, Mary Tyler Moore as the parents of young boy Conrad, played by Timothy Hutton, in his acting debut. And Judd Hirsch as his psychologist as a family living in the aftermath of the death of their oldest son, Buck. Young Conrad kind of suffers from some heavy guilt, which leads to a suicide attempt. He's placed in therapy to help him. And his mom, Beth, Mary Tyler Moore, is really cast against type in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Mary Tyler Moore is always bubbly and happy, and she is cold and distant from her suffering son.
Mm-hmm.
And she preferred the older son that died. And she does not make any bones about it.
I actually sympathize with the mother. I sympathize with every single one of these characters. They're all a different personality trait.
Mhm.
Mary Tyler Moore, or I'll just call her Beth. Beth, even though she was distant and she seems hard and cold, that is how she protected herself.
Sure.
Just like everybody else found ways to protect themselves, except for, the Conrad. He had a little harder time because he
did.
tried committing suicide. But everybody was dealing in grief and situations a little bit different. In 1980, getting psychiatric help was still taboo. So this movie was huge when
Sure.
it came to being a breakthrough and accepting that sometimes people just need help. The healthy way is not to just bury your feelings
No,
down.
pack it down there.
Pack
Let
it down and let it
someday.
explode. Eventually you'll die.
And Donald Sutherland playing the dad is kind of doing his best to kind of keep up appearances, kind of trying to keep the family together. He doesn't quite understand what's going on as
Yeah.
his marriage and his family is just sort of come apart at the seams. And the best scenes are between Conrad and Mr. Berger, played by Judd Hirsch.
Yeah.
I mean, these scenes were basically the inspiration for Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
I mean, they stole these. Nobody wears a cardigan better than Judd Hirsch in the
No.
80s. And, you know, he comes to rely on this doctor and to help him through some incredibly rough times because he can't go to his home life
Yeah.
for this help. And as I said, Timothy Hutton, this was his debut. He was 19 years old, became the youngest winner of Best Supporting Actor
Nice.
for this role.
What else?
This film won Best Picture, won Best Supporting Actor, Best Director for Robert Redford in his debut, Best Writing. Judd Hirsch and Mary Tyler Moore were both nominated. This book, the book that this is based on, is one of the most banned books in America.
Really?
Yes, it is one of the top most banned books in America because of the talks of suicide and teenage sex and all these things. Now, I mean, this basically it feels a lot like we have like 13 Reasons Why on Netflix that's causing all the controversy because that depicts teen suicide and things like that. Very similar at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And this comes in a time where, the early 80s, this Kramer versus Kramer was the year before. The Academy loved a lot of family drama in their Best Picture winners.
Yeah.
Like, what you got? You got some family drama? We got an award for you, buddy. This movie beat out Coal Miner's Daughter.
Okay.
It beat out Tess, The Elephant Man, and Raging Bull.
Whoa.
I think there was a miss on this part.
I think
Raging
so,
Bull
too.
gets my award. But this the ceremony for this Oscars was delayed a day because of President Reagan being shot, so they pushed the ceremony back a day. Another interesting thing about this, Elephant Man did not get any recognition for the makeup, so it led to the next year the category of Best Makeup being introduced into the Academy.
So they cheated.
It was too late. Can't give it to you now. Sorry. But Ordinary People it was a tough movie to get through for me.
I enjoyed it. It's definitely not a rewatcher.
You're
where
not going to just hang it out. This is
This
not a
is-
vacuum movie.
This is the second time I've seen it. I saw it a long time ago, but it's good. It's just not another not feel good movie.
Yeah, right.
We got
Bunch
a
of those
lot
this
them
week.
today.
Let's take a look ahead, sir. What's coming soon the week of October 18th? We have 4 films. We have Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. We have Zombieland 2, Double Shot. Just watched the first one again this week with the kids. They loved it. Jojo Rabbit, Taika Waititi's new movie about a kid who has Adolf Hitler as his imaginary friend.
Oh, that looks really
It looks
interesting.
great. And we have A24's new film starring Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, The Lighthouse. I am so stoked for this movie. Cannot wait. Before we leave you, though, we have to thank our sponsors, the Palace Cinema here in Sun Prairie. Marcus Theaters, thank you for sponsoring this program. We do appreciate it. We are getting into more of the Oscar season. There's also a bunch of Halloween spooky movies playing at the Palace. You wanna
I'm
go check
excited about
those
that.
out. Absolutely. So thank you for sponsoring this program. Next week, sir, we're going to be talking about, we have El Camino, the Breaking Bad movie on Netflix.
Okay.
We also have Gemini Man, Jexy, The Addams Family, and another Best in Show for you.
Yeah.
You
We'll
wanna
surprise you with that next
Tune
week.
in to find out what's going on. But until that time, I'm Jameson.
I'm Mike Roth.
Thanks for watching.